morning, Ross. How are you?
Morning, Candice. I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Pleasure.
For those that don't know, my name is Candice Olivia. I'm the current Public Image Chair for District 9640, and I just feel very grateful, one, for being in the role that I am after my own journey of being in Rotary, and more so for times like this morning where I get to sit with Rotarians who've been with the organisation for a long time and have done some spectacular things. And Ross, yes, you have, and I know we're going to dive into...
The pressure's on.
I know we're going to dive into some beautiful stories. Just a little bit about why we're here this morning. Throughout my own personal journey of being with Rotary, I have met thousands actually, of amazing human beings, individuals who have put their hand up to volunteer time and time again for numerous organisations, both in our own backyard as well as abroad. And the one thing that I have really enjoyed finding out is who the volunteer is. Obviously, Rotary, being an international organisation, has an amazing reputation for all the good that it does. But I think that it's really important to highlight the volunteers that have dedicated their time to Rotary and to its projects. So this morning, I'd just love to have a casual chat with you and find out a little bit more about you. So I'm not going to dive into what I know about you. I'd actually just love for you, Ross, to maybe take me back to the beginning, you know. How did you discover Rotary? What were you doing at the time when you discovered Rotary and decided to join? If we could just go all the way back to those very first days.
Yep. Pleasure, Candice. Yeah, lovely to talk to you about that, or anything really. Well, my basic answer to that question, or that issue, is that I was asked to join. That was that. I was sought out and asked to join. And I'll tell you how that happened. I was a newly appointed high school principal in Proserpine, which is North Queensland. Beautiful time of the year. School starts in January, the middle of summer. It was mighty hot, but a lovely country town, and I was ever so pleased to be there. I had staff who were living at Airlie Beach, so they were very pleased to be there too.
Yep.
So we were all happy to be together. So I was out running one morning. I was in my early 30s. I was out running one morning in a cane paddock, of which there were many, and I did an ankle. It was really quite nasty, so I was able to stagger home. I had the principal's residence just near the high school, and I staggered into work, and I said to my cleaner, who's the best doctor in town? Oh, she said, we've only got one. I thought, oh, okay, I'm learning about this town pretty quickly. And I said, well, I'll go and see him and just let him have a look at my ankle. Well, after 9 o'clock, I rang the doctor's office, and the receptionist was over the moon. Oh, Mr. Smith, the doctor would love to talk to you. Yes, please come down. Anytime you like, we'll fit you in. And she was just magnificent. So I went down about morning tea time, and they were most pleasant, the receptionist and the doctor, and he took me into his office, and I put my leg up on the chair and let him have a look at it. He looked at it and he said, I want to speak to you about something important. I thought, oh, maybe he's going to take the leg off. I didn't quite know what was going on.
Not quite
here.
what you probably wanted to hear that morning.
Not at all. I was surprised. But anyway, he said, we need you to join Rotary, and I'll pick you up on Monday. I said, pardon?
Had you heard of Rotary before that? Okay.
Never.
So from you, he was just saying, we want you to join Rotary.
I was a Brisbane boy, did my degrees in Brisbane. I was appointed to a high school in Childers. Then I took up a head of department here on the Gold Coast, then deputy principal here on the Gold Coast, another big high school, and never had much to do with it at all. I knew it existed, but didn't know much about it.
Can I just stop you there? When you say that you knew about it, what did you know at that time, you know? Not obviously having joined the organisation and maybe having some limited exposure to it. At that time, what was your understanding of Rotary?
My understanding as the deputy principal at Miami High School was that they were an organisation that worked in the community and assisted schools.
Okay.
Because there were some Rotary projects that were done at the high school. So that's all I knew. And I knew some of the local Rotarians because they were the ones that did the work in the school.
Yeah.
So that was my background, so I really knew nothing about joining. And he said, I'll pick you up on Monday. And I said, oh, well, tell me about what goes on. He said, well, and I remember this very clearly, and I've used it many times since. He said, Ross, he said, you're in charge of all the high school teenagers in our town.
No pressure.
No? I said, I'm aware of that. And he smiled at me. He said, well, he said, you need to know about this community and we need to know about our teenagers. And you're the right person to do that. I thought, well, that's a very interesting phrase that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know all about our teenagers. We need to know about them. You're the best person to do that. And you need to learn about our community. So there's give and take there.
Yeah.
The club benefits, you benefit. And he picked me up on Monday. I've been going ever since. That was 1988.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I soon learnt that the club was the most engaging group of business people in town, a most interesting group of business people in town who I wouldn't otherwise meet, because school teachers, as in your profession, meet school teachers every day.
Yeah.
Lawyers meet lawyers every day. But rarely do I get a chance to have dinner with the police sergeant and the funeral director and the owner of the Shell service station. Never would you do that. On the odd occasion it might happen with one of them, but regularly on a Monday night I would meet with all the people in town who are really making that community sing.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed, and I've been impressed ever since.
Oh, how beautiful. And Ross, what club are you with now?
I'm with the Burleigh Heads Rotary Club in beautiful Burleigh Heads. We have a breakfast meeting looking over the surf of the morning, and I can't think of a better way to start the day on a Thursday.
Oh, beautiful.
We're a business club, so we're very tight about time. 7 o'clock start, 8 o'clock finish, so people can get off to work. No problem.
And could you tell me a little bit about the club? How long have you been with this club?
I've been with this club since I retired. I'm a retired high school principal now. I was with the Palm Beach Club for many years when I was a principal. They were a dinner club, which suited me better as principal because by 7 o'clock I need to be at work. I can't be at a Rotary meeting. But it was a dinner club Monday night, once again Monday nights. It's not uncommon, I think, that day of the week. But 6:30, 7 o'clock, finished by about 8 or 9, and I could manage that, not a problem. So, but when I retired, I felt the breakfast club suited me better, and I live here in Burleigh, so it's only 5 minutes into breakfast.
Yeah, perfect. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you for that time of service as a principal, because like you mentioned before, I think it's really important for community to connect, and you know, as you mentioned, you're spending time with those kids and those teenagers, and community organisations that are putting together activations and areas of support. It's really important for that collaboration to happen, and as you said, it's a win-win situation. So for someone who's worked with teenagers in a volunteer space for just a little while, I do know how much patience that requires. I mean, we've all been a teenager. So firstly, just thank you so much for dedicating, you know, all those stages of your life to be there in community.
But let me say to you that my view of the world is this: I got this haircut from dealing with adults, not teenagers. I think teenagers are a ball of fun. Every day they get up, they're full of beans, they want to volunteer, they want to get a part-time job, they want to do well at school. Really, they just make your day. So, and adults aren't always like that.
Yeah.
So that's my view of the world from being a high school principal.
Ross, what made you navigate into that space? Had you always wanted to work in the education system, or?
Interestingly, I liked science. My first degree was a science degree, and it was in botany. And not a lot of people are enthused about botany, but I was, and still am. And I got a job in the herbarium in Brisbane when I graduated. And I didn't know what the world of work was like because I hadn't worked in the herbarium, but it was about botany, which is great. But I was like 20.
Sorry, for those that don't know what botany is, could you just give us
study of plants.
Yeah.
Study of plants. And so the herbarium is where plants are stored, researched, research on growing, supporting, reinvigorating, and so on. A lot of research goes on with the herbarium. But a lot of them are stored dried plants. And I was 20 maybe, And I went into work first day, and I looked at this office and the whole facility, and I thought, if I go into work every day and keep turning pages of dried plants, I could get sick of this very quickly.
Yeah.
So I immediately said to my parents, oh, I don't know if I want to work in this area. I think I'd rather be a school teacher and teach science rather than work in the herbarium. And they said, as many parents still say, but you've got a degree, you're supposed to be at work and da-da-da-da. I said, yeah, but I think I'd prefer to go. So I went back to uni, did education, and then in education they have to do some practical work to make sure that you're happy and capable in the scene, on the scene. And they made us, required us, to do a week at a primary school. And it wasn't my scene, but I particularly remember one little boy who grabbed me by the, we were there one week, who grabbed me by the leg, like both arms, and looked up and said, oh, I like you, mister. I'm thinking, get off my rotten leg, get off my leg. So I thought, that's the end of primary school. So teenagers don't do that, fortunately. So yeah, so that's sort of, and I look, and I remember that very clearly, and I say to many parents over the years who worry about their kids and their futures, oh, I don't know what they want to do. I say, listen, just take it easy, make sure they work hard at what they're doing now, and things will happen in the future, and they will change. Don't think they're going to leave at 19 and do that for the rest of their life. It may not happen. And they look at you and think, well, that probably makes sense. You know, what do you know at 19 that you're going to do for the rest of your life? But yeah, so that's my background in that way, yeah.
How beautiful. And Ross, just bringing back to the club, obviously you've been with them for quite some time, as you said, since you retired.
Yes.
What are the club's main focuses? Or over the years, I guess, I can imagine you've been across lots of projects, but is there a main focus or three main focuses?
Okay. I have a very dear memory of the club for two reasons, because I visited over the years, as you do being a Rotarian. You can go to any club in the area, and depending on your work day and your family week, you might be able to get to your own club, but you can get to any other club.
Yeah.
So I would do that commonly with Burleigh. And I particularly remember two things for Burleigh. One is that the people meeting you at the door often had their children with them. They were young mums and young dads, and they had the kids on the reception desk taking the money or filling out forms and things. And I thought, I think I like this group. They know that family's involved in Rotary.
Yeah, inclusive.
They're very inclusive. And of course, 7 to 8, they can drop the kids at school afterwards and then they can get to work. So it worked for them. So I very much liked that. And secondly, they had a very long-standing, ongoing community commitment with carols in the park. So every year at Christmas, they would put on a huge event outdoors here in the park on the front at Burleigh, with the council, involved with the city council, with singing and musicians at Christmas time. And they made a lot of money out of that, and a lot of community awareness out of that.
So with those types of events, you said that they've made a lot of money with it, which is great from a fundraising perspective. Obviously, it's successful annual event, and a really good community activation. Those funds that are collected, how are they distributed? I mean, obviously, it might change year to year, but if we could just get an insight of, collecting those funds on behalf of, on behalf of the club. Where do they go?
Okay. They spend the money in two ways. One's locally and one's overseas. And I think that's a fair measure, because there are things needed in our community and there are things needed overseas. The overseas needs are very basic. Ours are much more sophisticated. So one of the recent jobs we've done is to rebuild the play facility at the special school at Currumbin.
Oh, beautiful.
And it was a challenge because all those children are very interested and engaged, and we don't want them interested and engaged when we're trying to build things with machinery and tools and things. But so we worked with the staff closely to manage time in, time out, and after school and so on. So
how many members, if you don't mind me asking, were involved
worked in the project?
Yeah.
I would say there, because it was weekends and after work, we had a fair membership, but it would vary depending on what you were doing, because depending what your skills are, you can contribute better. I would say there might have been 15 of us involved in that.
Beautiful.
And there's a related one more recently with 2 above ground gardens locally, which have been most useful, and we didn't know about it until we were asked. And that's one of the things I've learned about Rotary over the years. Don't tell people what they need, ask them what they want.
Yeah, what a beautiful reminder.
It's very important, overseas and locally. So the group up at Pacific Fair, who run a support facility called, I can't even think of what they call themselves now, but they support adult disabled people in the community. And they either make sure they get to work and they'll drop them at work and pick them up afterwards, or if they're not able to work, they'll run a facility all day to get them out of the house. So they might play, they might learn, they might do all sorts of things. Well, they had a very old facility there, and it really needed a makeover, redo. And they got in two of our members who are both builders, and they said, what would you like to do here? We'd really like all this outdoor space rejigged and made more useful. And they decided between them that a raised garden bed facility right through the outdoor space, because it was covered area, could be useful because they could grow food plants.
Yeah, okay, beautiful.
And watch tomatoes, berries and so on grow, and keep them watered as a routine, so they've got a regular daily commitment. And because being above ground, they don't have to get down on their knees and scrub about. So away we went. Bunnings came on board, they donated all the timber.
Oh, how amazing.
And fortunately, the young man who was, so the lady running the facility, she was married to a builder, and he had all the gear. He could wheel in and slice up all the timber from Bunnings for us at a time. We'd say we want this length and that length and that, and we want them to pile this high and so on. And so we did that for about 4 weekends after all the facilities were provided. So we had the timber provided and ready to go. So
how amazing is it when you've come across an opportunity or an opportunity is presented, and you go out to the community, and from my experience, when you go out with clarity of what you require or what you're looking for in order to do good, people are just so willing to jump on board and either provide their skill set at obviously at no cost or minimal cost for the benefit of the community, or if they have the capacity to supply goods, then they will do so. But it's just a case of asking sometimes, isn't it?
You've got to do that outreach, and you don't want to look too above yourself and tell them what they need.
Yeah.
You've got to engage them and see what they want, why they want it. Can we tweak what it is you want? Would this work better for you? Would that work better for you? But in the long run, you've got to give them what they want, not what you think they need.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're making sure that when we're doing those projects that we're creating sustainable long-term impact,
question.
right? I think sometimes we approach a situation with an overnight quick fix solution, and that's what seems good for us, and we can sort of just tick the box and move on.
Correct.
But when we're out in the community and we're listening to individuals, we're actually asking those questions, as you said. What do they need? It gives us an opportunity to go away, create framework, get clarity, reach out to the community for collaborators in terms of other organisations or businesses that can donate or fund part of the projects.
And then they talk to each other. So then from that project, because so many people were pleased with it, many of them said, hey, you must come and see what Rotary's done for our backyard here.
Yeah.
And we got 2 other requests to do something similar.
Yeah.
To in Palmy, and we did both of those.
Oh.
So it's funny how you can spin off from things that are done into things that need to be done. It's interesting.
Yeah, amazing. And Ross, just coming back to the club and its focuses. I mean, obviously we've just discussed this amazing project. What other styles of projects does the club get involved in? Okay,
well, one of our very routine projects is to assist with Rotary overseas repurposing equipment. They call it RARE, Rotary Australia Repurposing Equipment, and that's for overseas use, mostly in the Pacific, but in East Africa too, reusing what I call superseded gear from schools and hospitals. And needless to say, I know what superseded gear is from schools, but I'm learning about hospitals as well. So superseded gear is gear that's not used anymore by schools and hospitals. That's perfectly fine, They've either upgraded, they've reinvested, they've changed needs, all sorts of things. But the number of schools that have got fantastic school desks and chairs and teachers' desks and chairs and whiteboards that have been superseded and upgraded into, screens and so on.
Yeah.
And we take those off them and we store them. And our relationship with schools and hospitals overseas is very strong in this group, mostly in the Pacific, but equally East Africa. And we start to get a message from a needy community, and they'll send us a list of what they need. And we then start to build the facility to fill that need. So we load a container with all the gear we've got stored in Brisbane, and then sometimes there's an extra request. There might be a dental chair they need at a facility, a health facility in the middle of Fiji somewhere. And then we've got to source a dental chair. So
how does that sourcing come about? I think that sometimes when we have an opportunity to assist an organisation or a community, or we have a really great idea that will create really positive social impact, we can get really bogged down by how is this going to work, what hoops are we going to have to get through, etc., etc. So I want to pick apart that opportunity a little bit. So is it generally that an area of need, maybe whether that be a village or an environment, a community, a school abroad, would contact Rotary or the club asking, or is it generally the other way around where the club's identified that you have that superseded gear out in our community, because obviously Australia has quite strong standards across equipment, so therefore they are left with equipment that can then be repurposed or donated, and we look for an opportunity of where that can then go?
Yes, it's mixed.
Okay.
I'll give you my personal experience. I was asked to go on a rebuilding tour to a Fiji village that had a cyclone go through and was demolished. The school had several of its roofs taken off, several of the buildings flattened, and my friends in Stanthorpe, where I was then, I was the principal in Stanthorpe for 5 years, said, I've just been to Fiji for a wedding, extended family wedding, and there's a village there that's just a mess. They said, if we organise some builders and things to go over and see if we can do something about it, would you come too, because we don't know about schools? And I said, I'm happy to. It's one of the things I like about Rotary is the professional backgrounds. So you've got a school teacher who knows all about schools, you've got a pharmacist, you've got an electrician, you've got a plumber. All of those professional skills matter.
Yeah.
And gee, they come together well in a Rotary Club. And if the Rotary Club's concentrated on managing that mix of skills, you can be worth $1 million.
So really focusing on
you can make a difference.
Areas of strength.
You can make a difference with all those professional skills that come together in a Rotary Club. So anyway, I went with them, and of course I didn't do any building, I'm not a good builder, but I said to the principal, is there anything you need? And he said, plenty. And he said, you must come and stay with me. He had 4 daughters and his wife and his mother and his sister living in the principal's residence.
Oh, wow.
He said, you will double the testosterone in this group. We're happy to have you. So he dressed me up like himself every day. So he said, people won't know. He said, you'll just look like the principal.
Oh, what an experience.
So I did a lot of reviews of that school while I was there. While the others were building, I was helping the school. Reviews of their practice, review of their signage, review of their curriculum, review of their general teaching practices. And, they just don't know what the possibilities are in the rest of the world. They're very good at their work. I was so impressed with them. But one of the examples was they had a long open brown paper bag, open at the seams and folded out. And they had 23 rules written in the teacher's staff room, handwritten on the brown paper bag. And I said, what's this about? And the principal said, we're particular about how the staff behave and how they manage. And one of the rules was there will be no raucous, loud behaviour in the staff room. I said, well, look, my experience is that 3 rules is plenty. And his eyes got bigger. I said, if you asked them what Rule 18 was, would they know? He said, probably not. I said, well, after 3, stop, because it's not going to work for you. And his eyes got, they are smart people.
Yeah.
They just haven't had the opportunity to think and see what could go on. And I said, as a matter of fact, I've been at a school where there's one rule. He said, one rule? I said, yep, it worked perfectly well. And it worked for staff and students. He said, what was it? I said, do the right thing. Ah. And I said, I can tell you, teenagers know what the answer to that is. If you look them straight in the eye and say, that wasn't the right thing, was it? They know.
They do, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if you do it with staff, they know too.
Yeah.
So 1 rule can work, 3 rules is enough. So that's the sort of work that I was doing using my professional skills in a needy area, in a developing area. And eventually I was able to get him to visit. I liked him, I liked his approach and everything. I said, I'll help you get to us. Never owned a car, never been on a plane. Got him a passport, had him over here for 3 weeks. Took him to umpteen schools, my school, and his eyes just got bigger and bigger. And he went on to become the president of the Principals Association nationally in Fiji.
Amazing.
Because of the opportunities.
So amazing. Ross, I'd love to know, not only within the club, but you as an individual, as a Rotarian, currently, what projects have you got on your plate? What magic's happening out there?
Well, there are 2 that I'm really enthused about at the moment, which means overwrought with the amount of time involved.
Yeah.
But that's okay. The first is that together with a mate of mine who's a past governor in Stanthorpe, we have been successful in getting a Rotary scholarship to the tune of $10,000 to support a principal to come to Queensland and New South Wales for 90 days, 3 months.
Wow.
And that's the man that I talked to you about before, because I know him and I know his potential, and we've been successful. So that's the Royce Abbey Vocational Scholarship. Royce Abbey was one of the, I think we're really over-serviced with Australian international presidents of Rotary. We've had more than our share for a small country. But Royce Abbey was one of those international presidents. And he set up a scholarship for developing countries, potential leaders in developing countries, to be assisted in some way. And mostly they're to visit developed countries and to see what the potential is to happen. So Mosi, this man I met all those years ago, has been successful with that. He's coming in April, May and June, which isn't far away now.
No, it's very close.
And he'll be visiting 7 schools in that period. He'll be doing some work with the Australian Institute of Management, 1-day and 2-day and 3-day courses, and he'll be visiting a number of Rotary clubs.
So what's the impact? Obviously you've been successful in obtaining the funds to bring this gentleman over. What's the impact, 1, for our community, and 2, for him and his community? Yeah.
There are 2 ways to manage growth in developing countries. One is to go over and show them. One is to have them come here and see. Both work. I'm not supporting either. But I've been over and talked to him and shown him and told him, and we've sent other principals over too, and that works in hospitals as well.
Yep.
But it's not the only way for them to learn. Another way for them to learn is to come to a developing country and see what they actually do. Never mind the talk, go and see what happens. Yeah,
and I guess from that, what are you hoping to achieve? So he comes over and sees what's happening here. I think this is for you, having been in the education system. What do you feel is, I'm going to say, lacking over there, because you don't know what you don't know,
yes.
that he might be able to witness over here that's going to be beneficial?
Yes. His growth will be exponential in regards to student achievement, staff development and staff achievement. It's very interesting that the little school that I worked with him in last, when he was last principal there, not that first one, he's moved on since, last year finished year 12, of course, and this year they've reported in the press in New Zealand, they're the only school in the country that have had every child pass year 12.
How amazing is that? And I
now,
guess
I like to think that whatever we might have done with him and his leadership and our support of the school, influence that.
Yeah, it actually answers my next question, which I was actually really eager to get to, because what I was going to ask is, how do you measure the impact of the club's involvement, or one Rotary club going abroad, or two clubs coming together to collaborate for positive impact? How is that measured, I guess, in this scenario? As you said, they've been successful to have every student get through year 12. And I guess I just wanted to touch on, with other projects, is the impact that the club's involvement have, is it something that you look at measuring to ensure that obviously those projects are sustainable and long-lasting?
Oh yes. We don't want to waste our time and energy and money and anyone else's money in anything that doesn't work. The good thing about business people is they're about their logistics. They want things to happen. Yeah. None of us go into work if we don't think, oh, we'll swan around here and doesn't happen. Well, it shouldn't happen.
People, but yes,
It shouldn't happen. And that's the way they view their lives. They get on with it. I don't know a plumber or an electrician who doesn't get on with his day. Yeah. They are about their business. And the same with lawyers.
And I imagine they're busy, and that saying is, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right?
Yep. And they know the logistics in their community. The doctors and medicos, the nurses, they know their way around, I tell you, and they want things to happen. They're not fiddling about. Yeah. So it really says a lot about Rotary in that it's a business organisation with people bringing their business skills and their personal skills, but their personal skills relate to the business skills. Yep. It's all the same deal. Yeah. And I see...
So essentially they're able to give just by...
using their professional and personal skills. That's all it is.
Yeah, how amazing. Ross, tell me, what other projects are happening?
Okay, one interesting one that's brand new that we've had a lot of positive feedback about is happening on Sunday. And it's two of our local Burleigh Heads Club members who are keen fishermen. They've reached out to the local schools and said, are there youngsters there who don't have male role models in their day? Are there youngsters there who would like to be busy on the weekend? Are there youngsters who need to be busy on the weekend? And the answer is yes, there are. And they've been able to source donations of all the fishing gear, all the bait, all the live bait, all the frozen bait, and they've even got a barbecue going for lunch this Sunday.
Wow. Yep.
And it's set up over at the fishing area behind Pacific Fair. But we've reached out to the schools. They've got a bunch of youngsters, mostly boys, but certainly some girls too.
I was going to say, I'm quite a keen fisherwoman, so...
excuse me. We'll get your number and get you there. And actually one of the young Rotaractors came this morning and she said, what about someone like me? I can't fish. They said, yep, we'll have you. Yeah. So that really is an imaginative project that the two schools that I know best, Palm Beach Currumbin High School and Miami High School, the coordinators there for the young people's welfare, the welfare coordinators, not the science and maths teachers, these welfare coordinators, they have reached out just so positively about it. They say, we know exactly which young people need this sort of extra work. We know which mums especially, lads growing up with single mums, very important for them to have this, and the mums know. But there's no opportunity to do this. Well, there is now, and my club's responsible for it. It's happening Sunday, and we're all looking forward to it.
I'm going to assume that this is going to be a very successful project because, I can see it from lots of different angles. One, obviously, as you said, there may be some single parents there that don't necessarily have the opportunity to maybe have a couple of hours on the weekend to themselves. So you're offering that respite, which, you'll know from working with parents for many, many years. It's really important for especially parents, single parents, to be able to have opportunities where they themselves can just surrender from the responsibility for just a couple of hours, focus on their own well-being to become obviously a better parent and parent better.
Correct.
But also for those young children who haven't had a role model to especially facilitate. I'm really passionate about sort of outdoor activities as well, because I think that's a very healing environment that we don't necessarily focus on as much 2024, it's the digital age, so everything's online, so getting outside into nature is a really beautiful process. Do you think this is a project that will be ongoing, and what might determine whether it could be?
I'll just mention first, before I answer that question, my experience with Fisher kids, teenagers coming into school of a Monday, when I see that, I used to man the gate of a Monday just to see how everything was looking, and I'd see the boys who are keen fishermen. How'd you go, boys? You have a good weekend? Oh, Mr. Smith, we were under this bridge and we did this. I said, did you catch anything? Oh, no, I didn't catch anything, but it was terrific.
Yeah.
We had this bait, we had that bait, and da-da-da-da. There's an amazing patience among kids who like to fish, even if they don't catch anything.
Yeah.
It's just spending time together, excited about the plans and what could happen, and it's not a common experience in other activities for adults or teenagers, where if you don't catch anything, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting
Yeah.
to see. So in answer to the question, we would wish it to be ongoing. We expect that for the initial period it will be regularly, once a week or maybe once a fortnight. We'll just see how it goes, because it's depends on
how much
the
fish are biting.
availability. Well, that doesn't matter. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter. If they don't get a bite, they're still had a good day.
Yeah.
So fishing's very good for that, very good for that.
Yeah.
And they learn a lot about tides and this and that, incoming tide, outcoming
Lots of
tide.
general knowledge there.
Yeah, very well, and very specific knowledge too. What bait for this sort of fish and da 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 da. So we're all very excited and hopeful that that new project will really have an impact in our local community.
Amazing. And obviously, because it's a new project, and I understand that sort of kickstart, how could the community get involved or support a project like that from its early sort of grassroots stage?
Well, once again, our outreach has been successful because the first people we approached were the Police Citizens Youth Club,
Okay.
PCYC, because the police know, and really there's been a bit of press coverage lately about unruly teenagers, and that's not my experience of most teenagers, that's the rare occasion. But the PCYC, the Police Citizens Youth Club, really are great players in this. The potential for the PCYC to make a difference is very high. So we've reached out to them and they've been over the moon as well.
It sounds like a really good opportunity, or a really good example actually, of two community-focused organisations coming together to collaborate,
Correct.
to work together to have sort of positive results out there.
I think the potential for it to succeed is very high because of that.
Yeah. Ross, what an amazing initiative from the club, and I can see the smile on your face that it's obviously something that you're very passionate about getting involved in. Just a couple of questions, if I could put the focus back on you now.
Oh, okay.
You're in the spotlight. Obviously, being a volunteer for such a long time, could you see your life having played out any different, having not dedicated, so much time to being of service?
Who knows? What are the what ifs in life? Woulda, shoulda, coulda. None of those are predictable, are they? But there's not one minute of my Rotary time that I haven't treasured. It's been hard work because working with adults is a challenge. I mentioned that once, didn't I? But I enjoyed immensely. And because adults have got lots of opinions and some of them share them whether you want them or not, really.
Yeah.
And you've got to work on that. But just working with business people, I've found energetic and energising because what they bring to the task that I don't as a school teacher is just fantastic. And I just feel energised all the time I work with business people bringing different skills to the job.
Do you feel like there's been any other personal benefits for you being a volunteer?
Oh, plenty. I guess my comment is it's energising. To commit your time sounds like an odd thing to say, that it's going to energise you. You might think it de-energises you, but it doesn't. It's quite the reverse. When you've got things to do that matter, you feel better about everything.
Do you find that it makes navigating through life, especially in difficult times, a lot easier, knowing that you have purpose and you become part of a collective working on these projects which are going to positively impact whether it be children or other community members?
Yeah, you have your down...
The camaraderie, just to be amongst.
You have your down days in your day, but the fact that you've got people to meet, things to do, things that matter, balances out your day well and truly.
Yeah. And what would you say to anyone who's been thinking about volunteering but just hasn't obviously taken that next step to find out, how they would go about it?
Yep. Well, my view is that they should be asked. So from the Rotary point of view, for heaven's sakes, ask them. That's the easy way. But of course, that doesn't happen all the time. So my view would be, and I've said this on many occasions, go along to a local Rotary club. You can visit any Rotary club in the world. And if you like the look of them, say, can I join this group? If you don't, go to the next one. Check it out.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously I've been in Rotary now for 5.5 years, and I do find I've visited lots of clubs, both in our local community and abroad, and it's really important to find a group that resonate with you, and I think I find that very important because it's an environment that you intend to spend a lot of time in to give back, and obviously that collective, that club, I remember when I first started the Gold Coast Passport Rotary Club here on the Gold Coast in Miami, and I would just always refer to the volunteers as my family. That was my volunteer family, because you spend so much time together that it is important to go out there. And I think just to add on to that volunteering space, that's what it becomes. Not only as an individual part of the community, you join a Rotary club and immediately you have this like-minded, heart-driven family to support the projects and your interests, but actually also your own well-being for many people.
Yep.
Did you think that you've sort of found the same thing?
Oh yeah, no question.
New members coming in or volunteers coming in, that it's not only about what they can do for the community, but it's also how it makes them feel. It gives them a sense of belonging.
Yep. From those early days in Proserpine all those years ago, when I sat beside the real estate agent, the Shell service station owner, the police sergeant, I thought, this is a community I want to be a part of. And it's never changed.
Amazing. Ross, thank you so much for your time. Just before we go, a couple of quick questions for you. If you could go on holiday anywhere, where would you go?
New York City.
Perfect. I was like, okay. I don't know if I didn't expect that. This is what I love about this. I don't know if I expected you to say that. I don't know what I was going to say,
You weren't sure
actually.
if I was a city boy or a country boy.
Yeah, I know. For a second, you got me there. Ross, if you could eat any meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I find eating anything easy, sadly. Tiramisu.
Ooh, I like that.
Do you?
Ross, lastly, what's one thing that you wouldn't normally tell community, or what's one thing that people just don't know about you?
That I was young once. They just think you're old all the time when they meet you. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
I put up a Facebook post last night of me as a beginning teacher in the 70s, 50 years ago now, and it's been so engaging to people. Oh, you had beard and you had hair, and I said, yeah, we were all young one time.
Ross, when you're not volunteering, where would we find you?
Cycling.
Beautiful.
At Burleigh Heads.
Amazing.
Pleasure.
And Ross, as you said at the beginning, you're from the Burleigh Heads Club. You meet on a Thursday in the
breakfast,
morning.
correct.
So anyone who wanted to look at taking that next step of volunteering, they could reach out to you or reach out to your club?
We'd love to have them. 7 o'clock for breakfast would be great. 10 to 7 would be even better.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Ross.
Thanks, Candice. Pleasure indeed.